Hey, it's Amy. So I just figured out that the reason my past few videos have been so shaky, like I don't know if you noticed, every time I moved, like, it would start to blur out a little bit, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong. I thought it was a smudge on my camera, but it turned out that I had my camera on the wrong setting. So it was basically trying to get as much exposure as possible instead of focusing on the frame rates. Like there's just two options on my camera that I could choose, and I had it on the wrong one. I'm just an amateur like that, but I fixed it since, so now I am moving around without shaking and blurring out, and that makes me feel so much better. Oh, today I am joined by my friend Ragnar. Look at Ragnar and how grumpy he is. I chose him specifically for that reason. I was like, this little round dude is just so grouchy looking. He's like me. Like, I know I have this smile just stuck on my face all the time, and for the most part I'm a cheerful person, but I'm also the world's grouchiest person. So I thought, with me and Ragnar next to each other, you can kind of see this is who I really am, like in totality. Anyways, so today we are doing I already forgot the name of the tag. Oh, it's called the Stay at Home Book Tag. And I have linked to the original tag down below in the description box. Princess Paperback came out with this tag back in April, back when we all thought we were going to be in quarantine for only maybe a month or two at most. But here we are many months later, still in quarantine. So these questions and prompts still apply. So the first prompt is, lying in bed, a book you could or have read in a day. I had a really hard time choosing a book for this first question, by the way, just because there are so many books that I have read in one day or would like to read in one day or know I could read in one day. But I ended up choosing one of my favorite books, which is The Rook. That's the first book in the Checquy files by Daniel O'Malley, who is an Australian author. So this book is about this fictional secret organization in England. They're like MI6, but the supernatural version, so they have special powers, and they're called the Checquy, and the main character is Miffany Thomas, who is one of their high-ranking members, but she does the administrative portion of it. She doesn't go out in the field, even though she has a very strong power. And the thing is, at the beginning of the book, she wakes up in this motel, I think, and it's like all those games where you wake up and you just don't know where you are and you have to look in your own pockets for clues. That's exactly what happens to her. She has amnesia. She's lost all her memories from before that moment. So she finds a set of instructions in her pocket, and it says, the body you're wearing used to be mine. And it leads her to the safe box, and basically it's like the red pill, blue pill thing in the Matrix. If she chooses to go through with it, open the safe box, then she has to kind of dive back into the memories and everything and problems that her previous self, before she lost her memories, was dealing with. And the other option is just to throw everything away and just walk away from that life. And she ends up, I think she's just too curious, so she ends up going down the track of course, opening the locker and getting out the file folder that her previous self put together, and she starts to investigate the mystery of who removed her memories, why did they remove her memories, is it somebody in the, is it one of her fellow high-ranking members in the organization? And meanwhile there's dead bodies appearing, and she is investigating that along with the rest of the people in the organization. And it's a really fun book. They made it into a TV series, but I saw the trailer and I went, this is not what I was reading, and I am very disappointed. I have not checked it out. I think they try to make it dark and gritty, which is the thing nowadays, but no, this is a humorous novel. I feel it's very hard to balance fantasy and something like this. It has dark themes, and it has but it's also very, very funny, and that's just hard to do properly, and I think Daniel O'Malley did it very well, and I really wanted to see that with the TV version, but of course that did not happen. And another thing I really like about this book is that she talks a lot about it's you can tell that the author has worked for like either the government or some other organization with a lot of red tape, like a lot of bureaucracy involved, because like there are scenes where like they're doing like crowd control, and like the journalists and like the public are all like panicking and asking questions, and Miffunee's out there just trying to keep them calm, because like a few hundred feet away from them is like a disaster zone with dead bodies and like evidence of supernatural terror attack or something like that. And I think that the author Daniel O'Malley worked for like the transportation department, whatever the version of that is in Australia. So he did basically do Miffunee's job, except not the supernatural version of it. But like, you know, as somebody who works for a university, like, it has to deal with red tape all the time. Like I sympathize, and I think that they conveyed it very well. So the next question is, let me take a look. Snacking, a guilty pleasure book. So I'm for the most part pretty shameless, and the things that I like them. There is no like guilt associated with it, except maybe like my BL manga collection. I understand BL can be a bit problematic, so part of me does go, like I know these are a bit trashy, but I do kind of enjoy them. But other than that, like, what's another series? I'm trying to think, like, I don't like with movies and TV shows. Like, I do have guilty pleasure shows, which are like, you know, those horrible generic action films. I just really enjoy watching those. So I guess like that's my version of a guilty pleasure media item. There's also, how could I forget? Harry Potter. And that is only a guilty pleasure because of J.K. fucking Rowling. So thanks, J.K. Like, I used to like her so much, and now, like, she has disappointed me so. But that doesn't mean I can stop liking the Harry Potter books. I still like them. I've just decided I'm not going to buy any other things from her and watch her interviews or anything like that. But yeah, like, part of it, like, do you remember a couple of years ago when that song Blurred Lines came out? By Robin Thicke. I personally found that song extremely catchy, but I know some people, or many people, found it controversial, and with good reason. But, you know, like, they would come on at parties and in clubs and everything, and, like, I'd be kind of, like, bobbing along, like, and telling myself, you can't sing along, like, people can't see you enjoying yourself too much. Like, so it was, like, kind of a guilty kind of, like, bobbing along, you know? Yeah, so I think, like, for the most part, like, I do try to separate the artist from the work, and I don't know, in Robin Thicke's case, I don't think he himself was problematic, so it wasn't that was the problem, but, like, with Harry Potter, obviously, like, we know where the problem with that lies. Okay, so the next question is, Netflix, a series you want to start. So for me, that would be the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which I have been meaning to start for forever. And every time I just get distracted by something else and haven't started. And I think it's also because, like, the books themselves are very long, and I hate to say I find it daunting, but in my old age, I seem to not be able to stick to, like, super long sagas like this as much. Like, I'll read the first book and kind of, like, drift off and read something else. But this one I am determined to read this winter break, so I'm like, it's on my list and I am going to get around to it. Next prompt, Deep Clean, been on your TBR for ages. Technically that last answer I gave could cover this one as well, but I think I'm going to go ahead and pick a standalone novel for this one. I have 302 items on my TBR list on Goodreads. So let me go ahead and check and see what I want to feature for this prompt. Alright, I know exactly which book I want to choose. It's Ballad of the Whiskey Robber, a true story of bank heist, ice hockey, Transylvanian pelt smuggling, moonlighting detectives, and broken hearts by Julian Rubenstein. So this book is a nonfiction book about a con man, I think, named Attila Ambrose. He's known as the Robin Hood of Eastern Europe, and, like, I guess he's just somebody who, like, has his finger dipped in every pie. Like, he smuggled things, he basically has played hockey as a goalkeeper. He sold pens for a while. Like, he drove the Zamboni thing over the ice in the ice rink for a while, and he's been a gravedigger, and he's basically done a shit ton of different jobs, kind of like Sean from Psych, if you've seen that show. But and he also, his main thing though is robbing banks. And so I am obsessed with white collar crime, like art heist and I don't know, swindling people, pyramid schemes, stuff like that. And I there's a podcast I like called Swindled, and it's by an anonymous dude, so I don't know his actual identity, but he researches all these different cases, and he just talks about it for about an hour, and it's very well done. Example, he talks about Flint, Michigan, and all the crap that went on behind the scenes, and how it could have been prevented if people were just not being so shady and thinking about their political careers, and I don't know, and if they weren't trying to save money by screwing over these people in this community, so on and so forth. And I know I said this guy Attila robs banks. I don't know if bank robbing counts as white collar crime. I don't think so. Seems a bit lowbrow to me. It involves getting your hands dirty. But all the other shit that he did does count as a white collar crime. And I just want to know how he got away with all of this. I know this is Eastern Europe, back when it was I think still part of the USSR, or maybe right after that. So it was probably easier to get around without and change your identity and all that, but or at least they wouldn't have a system to look, a database to look up your fingerprint in or something, or I don't know, I'm not really familiar. I'm not really sure exactly how he did it, which is why I need to read this book. But yeah, that's another thing that I plan to read this winter break with the free time I will have. Next prompt: Animal Crossing, a book you recently bought because of hype. Okay, we're talking about a book I actually bought and not just something I checked out at the library. My choice for this is Hex. And I am going to butcher the author's name here, so if you are Dutch, please cover your ears, turn away. You don't want to, you don't want your ears to bleed. But it's by Thomas Oldehovoet. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. My sister always makes fun of me because I'm terrible with languages, and she just has a natural gift for it. Some people are just really good at picking up languages, and I'm not one of them. My knowledge of Dutch knowledge, quote unquote, names is from the years I spent watching Premier League soccer and hearing Dutch players' names pronounced. So that's the extent of it. But anyways, this book, Hex, is about a town in the Hudson Valley that's haunted by this ghost or entity named known as the Black Rock Witch. And she, I think, so she has her eyes and mouth sewn shut, and she goes into your home at night, and then she stands next to your bed and just does that over and over again. And I think this book is set in the present day because they use surveillance to try to control the situation, and the town goes into quarantine, and the teenagers in the town get bored, so they try to go viral by streaming footage of this witch woman. And I guess things just go wrong. That's all I know about it. But I think it'll be good. I said, I bought it mostly because it came out in 2016, but people were talking about it a lot, and I was I am going, and I bought it recently because it was on sale. So I went, all right, I'm just gonna buy this book right now. It's time. I'm going to read it. So that's another book that I have on my TBR list. Just gets longer and longer, doesn't it? Kind of like this video. All right, so the next item on the list is Productivity, a book that taught you something or that had an impact on you. So for this one, I also had to think about this for a little bit because I try to learn at least one thing from like every book I read. Like even if I hate a book, I usually learn something from it. But in this case, I decided to pick the Magnus Chase series by Rick Riordan. I stopped to help a student with a research question, and I had forgotten what I was talking about. Oh yes, so I think we were talking about Magnus Chase. So the reason I picked this book is because specifically in the second book, there's a character introduced named Alex Fierro, and Alex is like basically one of Magnus's team that he travels with, and this character is gender fluid, which is something I had never really encountered before I read this book. Like, I mean, I'd heard about being gender fluid, and you know, I knew people who were like trans, but I don't think I'd ever actually met a person who was like completely gender fluid. So alright, I stopped to answer another research question. These questions are very interesting, actually. Like, some of them are asking questions about, like, cell biology in areas that I am not familiar with, but I'm just poking around to get results, and they're, for the most part, smart enough to go through the results list and find and assess results on their own once I give them the list. So, anyways, so back to the topic of Magnus Chase. So I was talking about Alex Fierro, who is like not an intersex character, but completely gender fluid. So I know some people who are like intersex, where they go by they, and Alex goes by he or she, like not they. Like there are certain days where Alex identifies more as a boy, and other days when she identifies more as a girl. And the reason I picked like this trilogy for this little prompt is because before I read this book, like I said, like I wasn't really familiar with the idea of being intersex, and like to be honest, I was very narrow-minded and like borderline, I guess, bigoted in terms of my thinking about it. I was like a conservative white man. Where I sounded like my own father several times. My dad's not white, but he's pretty conservative, and he's an old man, and like sometimes like the things that I said, like when I like basically before that, like I was fine with like the idea of being transsexual. I went, okay, well, you know, sometimes like you're born and you realize like you're not like in the right body, like in terms of like your gender, and you feel like you would identify like you would belong more in like the body of the opposite gender. Like that made sense to me, and I was like, that's fine. As if anybody were consulting me about this anyways. But yeah, the idea of being gender fluid kind of confused me, because I was like I understand, like why does it have to be like a different gender every day? Like, you know, how can you be a different gender every day? That gets so confusing. Like I don't know, like I didn't, like I said, I did not get it. And then I read this book, and it made me realize how stupid I was being, because it's just so simple. Like, and Alex explains to Magnus when, like, Magnus comes in one day, and Alex is dressed as a girl, and is, like, putting on makeup. And I think Magnus asks her about it, and she explains that, you know, today she explains that, like, today she, you know, is going to, like, be a girl. And then, like, the day before, when Magnus saw him, he was a boy. And, like, it just, like, after, like, I read that, and, like, I love Alex. Like, Alex is, like, one of my favorite characters. And I really shipped Alex with Magnus. And that, like, you know, back when Alex was still, like when I only knew Alex as a guy, like thought of Alex as a guy, like I shipped him with Magnus. And then after he said, you know, he sometimes wants like to be a girl, I realized that my feelings about Alex, like what I thought about him as a character, and like my whole shipping him or her, depending on the day, with Magnus didn't change just because I knew that. And I went, yeah, I get it. You know, you be whoever you want to be. It's not hurting anybody, and like it's really none of our business. Like, not, I mean, before I kept thinking about it, I'm like, okay, if a friend of mine had come up and said, you know, like they were gender fluid. Like I probably would have just gotten along with it, and it would have taken me a while to like wrap my head around it. But I think I am like open-minded enough that I would have been able to like get with the program sooner or later. But before like because of my, I guess, lack of exposure, not that that's an excuse, but like my lack of exposure, I feel like it was easier for me to dismiss like the whole like idea of being anything other than like a set gender, or like even like if you're switching over to like if you're transsexual, like it's still a set gender, like versus being a gender fluid or intersex. But yeah, like after I read this book, I went, I have learned my lesson. I will forever be thankful to Rick Riordan for that, and like huge props to him for introducing, I guess, so much representation in a middle grade book series. Like he's done more for the world than so many other people that I know of. So the next prompt is Facetime, a book you were gifted. I actually cannot think of one at this moment. Like I have been gifted many books in my life because people know that I like to read, but I can't think of one right now. Oh wait, I've got it. I brought this up before in like one of my first videos that I filmed. So one of the first book series that I ever received as a gift that really got me into reading was a Nancy Drew set from my favorite aunt. And she, because I remember like she asked me if I like reading mystery books. I think I was about like 8 at this time, and then like I went, no, like I don't know what a mystery book is exactly. Like I've seen like, you know, the PBS like Masterpiece Mystery like episodes that my parents would watch on TV, and I would sometimes like get to watch some scenes with them. But for the most part, I wasn't really familiar with mystery books or anything like that. Like I was a late reader. Like I learned to read pretty late, so like I was reading, I guess more simple. Like I was reading like picture books and simpler stuff before that. And then my aunt got me the Nancy Drew series, and it was those yellow hardcovers from Costco, and I ended up accumulating just more and more, like with every birthday and Christmas, like after that, like my aunt and uncle would basically just get me more and more Nancy Drew books. So I eventually owned like the 50 or 51 original, those yellow cover ones. Yeah, I owned the entire set, and like it's still in my parents' it's still on my bookshelf in my parents' house back in California. But yeah, like I really loved that series, and I think like I credit it with getting me into mysteries to begin with. And like Nancy is so badass. Like she was just somebody that she was so well rounded. Like she practiced martial arts. Like she was a curious and like super smart person. Like she spoke so many languages. It was only later on that I realized, because like they had different writers writing. That's probably why Nancy like has different interests depending on who's writing. But you know, I don't care. Like to me, she's just somebody that like wants to learn and goes through with it, and she puts it to use when it comes to her crime solving. And her friends are really fun too. So I haven't read one of these in a while, but and I didn't like the Nancy Drew for like an older audience as much. Yeah, like nothing's gonna beat like the original yellow covers in my opinion. So next prompt, self-care. What is one thing you have done recently to look after yourself? Like I think I said in the last video, I have gotten back into exercising because I eat and drink a lot. Like even last night I was exhibiting prime hedonism because I was eating tacos that I assembled myself, and I was experimenting to see if I can create a delicious taco using just vegetables and like salsa, butter, like no meat pretty much. Like I haven't decided to become vegetarian or anything like that. That's never happening, but it's just I didn't have any meat ready, so I went, oh, you know, I'm just gonna make a taco using just vegetables. And I saw on the chef show that they used sweet potatoes to make a taco, so I went, I have sweet potatoes, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to do that. But you know, I have never prepared sweet potatoes in my life, so I didn't realize how long it took to cook them, and like I ended up boiling them, then frying them, and then baking them, and but actually they turned out really good in the end. So like that was awesome. But like the tacos, like I'm new to cooking. It's gonna take me a while to realize, like, to figure out like which flavors go with what. And I'm like, okay, I know something's missing, but I can't tell what's missing. But yeah, so because of that, like today, I was feeling a bit unmotivated to work, so I had a 1.5 hour gap before my next meeting, so I ended up going for a run, and I ran 4 miles, and like that, like if you run regularly, you're probably like, 4 miles, whatever, but you have to run at least a minimum of 5 miles, but for me, like I don't really run, and even when I do run, like I ran like 3 miles last week, and it was like very start and stop, like I'd like run for a few minutes and then walk and run again, like, and even back like in high school when I ran more regularly, I would always try to walk, and like I would try to slow down. I would run with my friend who was very athletic, and she always went, oh my god, why are you slowing down, like I know you can keep on going, because I've always been known for my endurance, but I'd be like, why, like I already beat my time from last week or whatever. Like I was just very unmotivated even as a teen. But today I am going to run an entire mile and then stop and walk for like maybe like a minute and then run again. So I did that for 4 miles, but the last mile, oh my god, I like cheated. I stopped like at the very beginning of it to retie my shoelaces, so that took like maybe like almost a minute. Like I said, I have pretty good endurance, so like I wasn't like really out of breath or anything. Like I was, like, breathing wise, I was fine. It was just my legs are very weak, and that's probably because of inactivity. So like my ankles were starting to feel a bit tight, my calves were feeling a bit tight, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like I have always had weak knees, and I was like, everything's burning, like when's this gonna be over? And yeah, like, so, you know, I stretched my ankles out now while I was like retying my shoelaces, but after I retied my shoelaces, I actually felt like it was easier to run. Like my legs hurt less, so maybe my shoelaces were just improperly tied, who knows. But yeah, like, no, it felt really good when I was done. Like I knew that was going to happen, but like, you know, I went, if you want to keep on eating, especially since it's Thanksgiving week, and right afterwards I went and ate a giant slice of pecan pie, so it's like you have to move, or else you can't eat as much. Alright, so the last question is, bonus, name a book coming out soon. I will be right back because I have to go grab this book that I got. Okay, so let me show you. I received this for free in the mail the other day. It's called A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. And I actually didn't know this book wasn't out yet, but I saw on somebody else's page that they were like, it's coming out on December 1st. I'm so excited. And this is another series that I've had on my TBR list I've never picked up. And so it says it's an Ember in the Ashes novel. So maybe like the series is called Ember in the Ashes, I guess. Or I remember that was the name of the first book. I think the series is actually called something else. But basically, I put the first book on my TBR list. I'm pretty sure I had it like almost checked out at one point. I just never went through with it. But now I think this is the 4th and last book. And if this were several years ago, I would have seen that as a challenge. I will speed through the other 3 books and finish this book in time for December 1st so I can discuss with the rest of the fans, or even like try to get there before everybody else because I already have the book. So that was what young Amy would have done. But now like I don't see that happening. I'll probably start and maybe get through like the 1st or 2nd book, but I don't see myself going through all 4 books by next week. I just, especially with all the other books I have on the TBR list too, and also for Thanksgiving, I always play a ton of games because, you know, Black Friday sales, I get myself new games. So I already have games on my to-play list too. The one I'm eyeing right now is that game Hades. I'm trying to decide if I want it on PC or on my Switch. And I'm pretty sure there are sales for both of them. So I'm still thinking, like, I am a PC gamer. Like, I don't really play on the console. The Switch is like my first console in like a very long time. But we've been on the computer a lot lately, all of us. So something about sitting in front of my TV screen for hours with my controller is appealing at the moment. So jury's out on which one I'm going to pick. But by the time I have the next video up, I will probably have already made my decision. So until then, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. I mostly just eat Thanksgiving, but this year I am having a Zoom Thanksgiving. Actually, no, the other years I didn't really go home for Thanksgiving either, because I spent Thanksgiving gaming by myself, like I said. So but yeah, you celebrate, happy Thanksgiving, and if not, like, have a good rest of your week until next time I see you.